Yeah, welcome everybody to What About Books, and let's talk for a minute about in 5 years. You ever think about that? What you're going to be like in 5 years, and what reading books like Atomic Habits, the changes it can make. Anybody besides me think about that type stuff?
I'll give you a health example. I'm really big on this health kick right now, but uh, uh, one of the things is I'm consulting with my doctor starting next week. We're going to start a pre-diabetic prevention program because as you get older, you're more susceptible to it. So my blood work's great, but we're going to start talking about different things that can be done as you get older and your system changes. So my habit will be is to start substituting out certain things for other things, so I'm prepared for that. In other words, maybe eat watermelon instead of an M&M or two. I don't drink sodas, but every once in a while I'll have one just to fix the craving. But switch that out with something like Gatorade or something without sugar. So the whole goal is to start a preventative habit, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is the idea here is in 5 years we're going to be the same today as we are today. In 5 years, you're going to be exactly the same, except for what you read, what you watch, what you listen to, and who you hang out with.
Okay.
So the idea is you upgrade that. Now, of course, we've got time that's going on, bodies, start falling and other things. And but what Herdy sound like, to equate what you just said to, in 5 years, is that what you're looking out 5 years and you want to improve, you don't want to deteriorate health wise, so you're making some changes now, so that 5 years from now will be better than if you stayed on the same path. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Anybody else?
Just for me, Danny, is I'm based on the work I do, as I'm talking to clients, friends. We've always been in a resource constrained world, but it's even more so. We see what's happening with, fresh water, like rain. We got a population getting ready to cross worldwide 8 billion. Could be this afternoon. They're estimating. Some numbers that are viewed, but you're trying to make good decisions, and you're also trying to read how people survive other constrained times. We hope we learn something from our great, depression and what we had worldwide. But people are starting to talk about what that looks like and what your values are, and how you make those trade-offs. I've got people asking me hard questions about, what they actually invest in, or what their business is worth, or what do they leave their children? What's going on? And it really makes you think. So I'm trying to kind of boost my reading in that area, because we've got stuff from the Bible on to people written about constrained or lack of resources, and I think we're getting ready to go through another pretty heavy cycle of that. And, we really don't realize in the U.S. how fortunate we are until you just spend one day outside our country and you get the rude awakening of how much we have and we've not used it very well. So I'm going to kind of focus on that.
Yeah. So, okay, along that, so let's talk about what I had a question there. I had somebody come up, interrupted me, but in 5 years, so what can be done? What can be done today? Now, there's most of us on this call, we have little that we can do. No one can make big influences outside their spheres of influence, right? So,
it's hard enough to do
what can somebody
it on purpose.
I'm sorry, Gary.
It's difficult. even when you're trying on purpose. You know, I'm not Zick or Brian Tracy here, one of those guys with 100,000 people in their database.
Well, we do have influence. I mean, I think if we just are arrogant enough to think that by ourselves, without some help and God, we can make changes. But I mean, you can influence people. I mean, it's, you know, that's
I think
big
on a
fact.
micro scale, everybody's influencing,
Yeah.
positive, negative, even neutral. It's hard to be neutral, right? You're conveying something in some form, fashion, or another.
Okay.
Hey, Danny,
So with that, yeah, go ahead, Kenneth.
I was going to share. I saw the interesting quote maybe a week or so ago from Elon Musk. Whether y'all care about him or not, that's irrelevant. But he had this interesting quote that it said, "The life you're living today is based upon what you did 3 or 5 years ago." And so be thinking about,
Oh, really?
yeah. So
Yeah, if you see that again, send it to me.
yeah, I'll find it. But it just stuck out to me when you mentioned that. And he said, so be thinking about, you know, where you want to be 3 to 5 years ago, because where you are today is based upon what you did 3 to 5 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah. Hey guys, excuse me a second. I was supposed to invite somebody on here and I can't find something. Hold on just one second. Come back to that, Kenneth. Trying to find her email.
Kenneth, I happened to watch a video last night, short video, and it's the gentleman who's been doing the drone photographs of the Tesla Austin site. And it showed from the dirt to completion and then took you around it, the time lapse in like 30 seconds or 45 seconds. And it's almost, it's stunning to believe that if you drove by the old gravel pit, which I remember as a kid, been there forever, and turned into that factory. You know, there's few people that could think they could do that, particularly in the time frame they were given, because that was when he threw out the schedule when it'd be open. People thought he was like, you know, that's baloney, and he made it. But that was a real eye opener to see it kind of collapse in that time frame.
Well, and speaking of
Yeah.
climate change, my company that I'm a contract worker, okay? So I just do whatever they say. But we've got a partnership with Amgen and AstraZeneca. And the AstraZeneca folks are really into being green. And we were scheduled to have regional sales meetings. And somebody, not because of COVID, because that's pretty much blown through most of these people and they're pretty young too. But they just said, we're going to do them all remote for our carbon footprint. And I think that's just 1 or 2 or 3 people making a decision and pushing it out. I don't believe that was anything that was, you know, but supported by the top level, obviously. And I don't even think they're saving that much money in the sense that they'd already booked hotels and things. So they'll have to either, you know, push that down or, you know, eat it, whatever. So.
You know, back to what, in 5 years, and I love Elon Musk has said something about that. I heard Zig Ziglar say that for the first time in the late 80s and multiple into the 90s, that you're going to be the same 5 years from now as you are now. We could say, we shorten that and say that based on the choices we make, right?
Yeah.
And Mike, good to see you. I guess your eyes okay?
Yeah, I got to wear glasses.
Yeah. So in a machine shop, run a machine. Yeah, you need to wear glasses, Michael. So,
yeah. Well, if you
guys,
drop your contact, you can't put it right back in your eye because there might be a metal shard in there.
That's right. That's right.
yeah, learned that from experience, did you?
Yeah, I was in a hurry.
So Yeah. All right. So let's jump into chapters 8, maybe into 9. Is that where we're at? That's where I told Kenneth we were. I didn't have the book and thought I was going back to my home office and didn't make it back there. So I'm online on the book online here.
We're on 8,
digital.
Danny.
So yep, we are on 8. Okay, thought so. So let's jump into this and let's just think about it from the standpoint of what can we use here that we're learning from the author about making a difference. This book just gets better as we go. I was listening to it earlier today, and it was way up in, I think, chapter 16, and just thought, oh my goodness, it's not one of these books that just softens and becomes less interesting as it goes. It just keeps getting more and more interested. So anything here on, and I believe this is a pretty short chapter. Anything
I think
in here that
the aspect of the way your brain is structured to react to dopamine
That's
for
crazy.
this want versus just, I'm ambivalent about this subject, but if you really have this deep desire, it's hitting all these spots in your brain that drive you to be motivated and take action. I thought that was pretty keen insight. And of course, we're trusting the author that the brain structure description is accurate. I don't have any reason to disbelieve him. I'm just saying that, if he's accurate, then God put your brain together to work in this way. And then is it not about your prevailing attitude about what's enjoyable, what's good, what's rewarding?
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point. Great point, Gary.
You could be porn, alcohol, drugs, like he was talking about, any number of things, or you could have some really people serving deep desires that are great things, so that you're rewarded and you're driven to take action to do that. I think it has a great deal to do with prevailing attitude, mindset, what's true.
So Danny, as part of this chapter, if I'm just thinking back to what I read, are you motivated by motivation or consequences? Is that part of this chapter?
Yeah, there is a consequence. Well, the reward of getting that dopamine hit or the anticipation was what he was describing. He was saying, might be really motivated. Just think about where you're going to go on vacation before you ever get there. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The word consequences is not in this chapter. I did a quick word search. Is not in this chapter, but it's alluded to definitely. Go ahead, Paul.
He's using technology on his Hurdy.
Yeah. I noticed that.
I'm
Gary,
impressed.
Gary, what he talks about here is backed up by other research. I've shared this, but Diana found my copy. Whoa, that's terrible, isn't it? Well, the book is called Rest, Alex Payne. He's got 50 pages of notes in the back. That's a hard science to back up his case studies.
Oh,
cool. Rest. And he is also a big advocate and part of a movement of the 4-day work week. And they're actually studying companies and countries that adopt it versus saying, yeah, it's good or bad, but like what really happened. So he talks about dopamine, also talks about how you restore that so that you're not exhausted or, you run out of gas in effect. But I just think,
are they working? Are they working 10-hour days or 8-hour days?
It varies. And so New Zealand as a country is trying it. There are some major UK employers that are diverse that are trying it because they
Mike, you do
realize
a
again back
version
to
of that, right?
resources.
Yeah, we do 410s. And I'm
Yeah.
here.
So
I'm here
they're
all the
cutting
time.
commute time, even if people work from the office, you know, they're cutting commute time, they're cutting traffic. They're trying to get people to situations to show that the productivity is there. It's not about I clocked hours, I made my 40, and we've all met people, nothing is done. So they're, you know, he's trying to show that balance. So
That's cool.
if I'm trying, still
Yeah,
trying to
Mike,
get this in, but just it won't.
But-
I guess
Put
I
it back by your head.
tried.
I think you have your blurry, you have your
I have
blurry
them blurred. Yeah,
background.
I'll make a copy and send it. Just REST. I read it about 4 years ago as a part of a executive book club that Michael Hyatt did. It was the first book he had required reading, and it's really made an impact. And just advocating taking power nap for real. I mean, this book paid for itself 100 times over in the first month after I read it.
So who's the author again, Tom?
Alex Pang, P-A-N-G. Yeah. You'll see his post on LinkedIn, and he's a multiple book author, but he's got some hard science. But this book is focused around people you would know, case studies of authors and scientists and whatever. But here's the science in the back to show they did this. It's not just luck. Here's the science behind it.
Something you said there, I think it was Tom, even back to something Kenneth said on page 102. It talks about companies spend millions of dollars to discover the most satisfying level of crunch in a potato chip or the most perfect amount of fizz in a soda. And in the dynamic contrast, if I'm getting I don't have my, I know I took some notes right here, and I just thought I was going to go back to my house after a couple of back-to-back appointments, and then we had some training here at T-Works today that went long. But I don't drink much. Went 28 years and didn't drink at all till about 5 years ago, and started drinking a little bit again. But I've never liked wine. But when I used to drink, I would drink bourbon. But I liked that bite of the bourbon, and then realized the bourbon, it caused me some headaches, so I flipped to tequila. And I like tequila. It just, with over some ice with some lime in it, but I like that bite. Well, I found out about a month ago, Tom, I was out at Tornalock, and they were promoting Tornalock's a winery out here by Lake Burnett, or Lake Buchanan, and out close to Burnett. And I tried a wine. The guy Steve upstairs said, "Here, try this wine, and see how you like it." And he had remembered that I just didn't like wine. It was all too smooth for me. It had a really sharp bite. Well, all of a sudden, that's a wine that I like, and but it's because of that bite that's in it. And so, anyway, just thought about that. Figure out how to use that in my mortgage business. How can I, I guess it's some of that market, that law of attraction, the market attraction versus attraction to market type thing that some of us has talked about. What else we got in here, guys? By the way, don't you guys have every book that you like that you have in paper, you also have in digital, so you can do word searches? Everybody does that, right? So let's go back to the dopamine. Who was that talking about first started talking about? Gary?
I did.
Let's feed off of this dopamine a little bit, this craving. Let's feed off of this craving.
Well, the interesting thing too, when you talked about the rat analogy, when they somehow chemically block the dopamine reward, the rats just shriveled up and died.
Yeah, they don't want to do anything. It's crazy.
Yeah, the reward system that is activated in the brain when you receive a reward is the same system that is activated when you anticipate a reward.
Well,
Says that on
if
page
you look
104.
up dopamine, when you look up dopamine, it affects about a dozen areas in your life, from learning and motivation to heart rate and sleep. That's pretty deep. I mean, attention control, pain processing. There's a lot going on with that chemical.
So does it emanate from the brain or a gland? Where does it come from?
It says it's made
Well, it
in
has
the
to come-
brain.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to come from the brain just because of the fact it's a thought. I mean, you're given a reward and the emotion and the feel, and then if you only anticipate it, that comes from the brain, or or at least the the subconscious mind. Of course, the mind and the brain are different or separate from each other, but still don't have a good grip on that. And I've read a lot about that, but Gary, we learned when we went through Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich
Mm-hmm.
that what do you want? When do you want it? What are you going to give up? Write that down and read it out loud to yourself morning and night. And I don't know, I related this to that. And the reward system that is activated in the brain when you receive a reward is the same system that is activated when you anticipate a reward. This one reason anticipation of an experience can often feel better than the attainment of it.
Well, we know there's an intermix between the physical and the emotional, spiritual, right? Because as a man thinks, so will he be. And consequently, we have our cognitive mind affecting our brain, which is a physical piece of software, hardware. And so I don't think we know the mind is your will, emotions, and your intellectual capacity, that sort of thing. And then your brain is, these billions of neurons. So as your brain functions properly, you feel rewarded and you can go out and do action. And then you get a reward from, let's just say, a job well done, that sort of thing. So I agree with you totally. The mind is not the brain, but the mind influences the brain and the rest of the physical body.
Yeah. Well, it's not about, not pushing back on you, but not about green. I mean, neuroscientists, numerous ones are saying this: the mind is not the brain, and the brain is not the mind, and you're not, and the whole thing around neuroplasticity and the conscious and subconscious is all pretty interesting.
All stuck.
So yeah, good stuff there, Gary. Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say you were breaking it up on us. Maybe I am too. So maybe it's my connection.
It was you, Tom. Everybody else
Was
is
it?
good.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. No, I mean, I'm just letting you know. It's
No,
just
good. That's good. That's what I'm trying to find out. It's like Danny was
It's-
moving in slow motion. I thought it was a lot of dopamine going through, so I was trying to figure out what's going on.
it's just your internet connection
There you
burped a little bit.
Yeah, Verizon. I paid my bill, swear to God. So
It's all right. You're in Mander.
This whole thing, we go over on page, I think it's 106. Beth, did you unmute? Were you going to say something?
No, I'm still back on dopamine because I had to study this long ago about it being a neurotransmitter, and it's just a chemical messenger between neurons. And there are other messengers too. There's not just dopamine. that are in your brain. And I don't know, it just kind of is fascinating to me that it's like an on-off switch, like the binary computer, it's either on or it's off. And those zillion billion neurons we have, they're able to make memories, make everything, all these feelings, everything. It's just, we are built in a mysterious way. Thank you, Lord. It's like we really
And
are.
Well,
I think, Danny, to add to that, so what I'm hearing here and what I've learned from, again, I go back to recovery, right, is the dopamine becomes the reward for bad habits also. So the people that get addicted, their dopamine is controlling the addiction, and the addiction is now being processed by the dopamine. So if our habits are bad, then we're not going to have the results in business we want. So we have to change those to the right sort of habits, right, in order to get the rewards that work for our physical body and mind. So I know that's a little deep, and I know everybody got it, but people that are stuck in addictions are stuck in that dopamine. That's how they get satisfied. It's really powerful.
You know, yeah,
Yes.
and you know, too, what you were both saying is that, and there's various. I mean, there might be some other, I'm gonna call them means, or other transmitters besides dopamine, or if that's a transmitter or the agent that's transmitted. But when you get hungry late at night, anybody besides me get hungry? You know, starting about 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, grinning there. Is that whatever I'm gonna call it dopamine, or whatever that is, that
Serotonin.
agent that's transmitted, serotonin, I think that might be, whatever it is that says that you're hungry, is the exact same agent that's transmitted that you're tired. And so you look at, so when you're getting hungry late at night, just go to bed, is what I've learned. Now, I heard a guy say this, I get his name is the greatest something. I forget that podcast, but I mean, it is maybe I got some of the verbiage there wrong, might not be the exact, but it's the similar. It's the similar stimulation, but we go to eat. So what I've learned to do is when I start getting hungry, after dinner, is I go eat a piece of cheese and make myself wait about 10 minutes. Oh, by the way, my wife wanted me to tell you, she heard me trashing her last week about the cake. Okay, remember last week, and I trashed her about eating the cake and was speaking to that cake, the habit you speak and point at, and that she did not buy cake this weekend because of that. Hallelujah. And but I also did not eat that last piece of cake that I said, I'm not eating you. You caused me to feel bad the next morning, and as far as I'm concerned, Kathy can throw it away. I don't know if she threw it, now I think about it, I don't know if she threw it away or ate it herself, but anyway, I did not eat it. So it was a win. It was a win on that habit stacking, or that habit, whatever it was. Kenneth, a while ago, were you getting ready to say something? Nope. No. Okay.
No.
This part
Just
here
a-
on page 1.
just a very quick- Just a very quick comment, Danny, on Purdy's comment.
Sure.
About the dopamine addiction, because of me working for the pharma at one point. Over half the people that have the radical weight loss surgery will, within 6 months, trade that addiction for either gambling or alcohol.
Wow.
It's a real problem, because it's like they're in that routine, and so they don't want the food because they've shrunk their stomach artificially, but they trade it for something else. And so a lot of the people that did the surgeries got sued because of, oh, you caused that. Well, they're just trading dopamine addictions, I guess, right?
Well, it's interesting. I don't have a study on this, but I can just tell you from my brother's AA group he's in, recovering alcoholic, right, for 8 years. Half the people in that group have died from smoking because they doubled their smoking because they transferred the addiction. They feel better in their head, right? And they're sober and they make good decisions, but they transferred it over to cigarettes, and now those are killing them.
Wow.
So you know, that's what I'm saying. Swapping out. What I like about this book is this book gives you an opportunity to think about how to swap out a bad habit or a good habit in small increments, right? That's really the key, is what can I substitute for something that I really want to change? Easier said than done.
I was really addicted to running because you get that runner's high, and didn't want to take the rest day on Sunday and not run. You know, you just really
Yeah.
you just get addicted to it. It was not a bad thing. I wasn't like running ultra marathons or something like that, but I know that feeling, and that's kind of what I'm at right now, is trying to get that one back. I'd like to have that habit back.
Yeah. Beth, you can substitute the words, but my new favorite theme song is, and over the years I've had different theme songs. Okay, like I've got one for my mortgage business and my team and keeping them loans flowing through the system, and that's Rawhide, you know, and
No
you know, keep them
kidding.
doggies rolling, keep them laws rolling, and
I see
keep
the
them
Blues
loans rolling.
Brothers singing Rawhide.
And my favorite is the Blues Brothers. Yeah, singing Rawhide. If you haven't seen that
Take-
YouTube, everybody needs to go watch it.
Taking care of business. Taking care of business. Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Well, Danny,
Well, mine, and I, go ahead, Tom.
as a consultant, we would always pick a theme song to tip out a client. And I'll just say that for one client I worked with, the theme song was Highway to Hell.
Oh.
And then literally, we put that music in the background of a slide presentation. One of the people came over and said, "Great call, man," because it was that bad. So yeah, it was an
It's one of those
expression.
deals. We're gonna fix this, but it's gonna get worse before it gets better, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, my new personal theme song is Toby Keith, "Don't Let the Old Man In," and let me tell you. And you could, and let me. This past weekend, with the past few days, and my running and the training program and all I'm on, and the everyday thing that's been right. I've been. Me and that old man, we've had some serious conversations here the last few days. So, but yeah, just look it up. Don't Toby Keith, "Don't Let the Old Man In." He wrote that and dedicated it to Clint Eastwood and gave it to Clint after Clint said that he gets up every morning and doesn't let the old man in. And it was in the movie The Mule. But however we got talk on that, how we got on that, I don't know. But back over to page 106, he talks about here, researchers have found that 100% of the nucleus accumbens is activated during wanting. Meanwhile, only 10% of the structure is activated during liking. This that word there right above it, they are often referred to as hedonic hotspots. I think hedonic means that the hedon has to do with the relentless pursuit of pleasure, and in terms of pleasant sensation considered. So your brain is far more neutrally circuitry allocated for wanting rewards and for liking them. The wanting centers in the brain are large. Isn't that all interesting? The fact that the brain allocates so much precious space to the regions responsible for craving and desire provides further evidence of the crucial role these processes play. Think back to what Herdy was talking about in addicts, and I think back to my addiction to cake and ice cream. I want what it is, that want. I love the taste of it, and desire is the engine that drives behavior. I assume all that's located primarily in the subconscious. So these insights reveal the importance of the second level of behavior change. So then finally, and we'll finish, we got 20 minutes left, of how to use temptation building to make your habits more attractive.
Can you repeat that?
How to use temptation building to make your habits more attractive. Obviously, he's talking about, the good habits.
Now, he uses the word bundling, right, Danny?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Stacking, bundling.
Yeah.
So bundling here, this is where he says, this is where a strategy known as temptation bundling comes into play. So temptation bundling is one way to apply psychology theory known as Pimmock's principle, named blah, 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 states that more probable behaviors will reinforce less probable behaviors.
Hey, Danny, I was just lady speak at Dallas Theological Seminary about renewing the mind. She's pretty famous for this particular thing she teaches. And she basically said that to stack or to bundle, you have to speak the negative things out loud and repeat them as part of the renewal, because you have to let your system know you're aware of it. So you have to speak it, say it. I'm not doing this. I should be doing it. This is not something I need to have in my mind. I need to kick this out of my head. And the more you do that, the more the awareness factor comes up in renewing and putting something else back into it. It's very interesting. And it was all based on Romans 8, right? About renewing the mind. Really interesting.
Do they mean to do it actually verbally or in your head? I mean, they're talking about
No,
verbalizing.
when you're overcoming something, to verbalize it, say it out loud.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, there's there's a book called Mind Body Syndrome, and some of you guys know Trey Hertel, and Trey and I were having lunch about 5 years ago, and Gary and Herdy, I remember Herdy helped me get into Texas Land and Cattle one day. My back was so bad, and I had lunch with Herdy. I had lunch with Trey, and I got there early because I'd need to walk in real slow, and we'd sat there about 30, 45 minutes, and he said, "Is your back hurting?" I said, "It's killing me." "How'd you know?" And he said, "Well, I wasn't real sure." And he recommended a book about the back, healing your own back, and the mind body syndrome. And in that book, there was the therapy for your back was to speak out loud certain things, and you had to speak out loud. So there, and this was somebody that had been going through all kinds of, like me. I've been to chiropractors. I've been to Jason. I've been to Owen. I've been to another chiropractor. I'd had X-rays. I tried. I've been through some yoga therapy. Been through about 5 or 6 therapies there over that year, and then I bought that book, read it, sitting out in my truck, read part of it, then bought the Audible, listened to it on the way home, and the rest of the night. And 3 days later, my back pain was gone. And I still use that therapy today, for different ailments, and it's speaking out loud. So that's interesting, Herdy. Is this something recently, or this back when you were?
No, it's recently. I'll send a link to you. You can put it out. It's a video tutorial. It's open to public. I get a newsletter from DTS every month, and they have a sermon or a quickie 15-minute. I'll send it to you. It's really good. It's really good.
Okay. So again, he's talking here about the law of the second law of behavior change, which is making it attractive. And we need to make our habits attractive because it's the expectation of a rewarding experience that motivates us in the first place. this is where a strategy known as temptation bundling comes into play. So whoever brought up that word, bundling. I mean, this whole end of this chapter right here, I know I've got highlights of most all of it, but on page 110, you get into that 1-2-1-2. So after a current habit, so the bundling formula is habit stacking plus temptation bundling. Formula is after blank a current habit, I will blank habit I need. After so this kind of the stacking we talked about, he's just breaking it down, right? Isn't that what he's doing here, guys?
Mhm.
Just breaking it down, a different way. It's showing us some of the same thing, but just in a different way. If you want to check Facebook, but you need to exercise more, after I pull out my phone, I will do 10 burpees. After I do 10 burpees, I will check Facebook. How about that? I hate burpees.
Me too.
What are they?
What's that?
What's a burpee?
You start
Okay,
from
you
the
stand-
top and go down and spread out, right?
Okay, you stand up. You stand up, drop down on the floor, do a push up, and then jump back up. That's a burpee.
Oh, okay.
Yep. After you want to watch sports, but you need to make sales calls. So after I get back from my lunch break, I will call 3 potential clients. After I call 3 potential clients, I will check ESPN. So we're going through a lot of this type stuff right now with our sales team, and the state of the market and what it is with real estate and mortgage rates, and to me this is not a lot of people freeze, flee, it's the fight or the fight or fright, or the fight or flee thing that goes on. But a lot of things people are doing right now, they're just freezing. They're not doing anything. And so we've been working to bust through that and keep it out in front of us. And so this is all real good.
So Danny, I would think that part of the habit bundling is like you said, you were saying that stuff out loud, right? Is to ask yourself those questions too. Like for instance, I just thinking about you. If you get tempted to eat something late at night, why not just go ahead, go buy some blueberries, make a blueberry shake, and put it in the refrigerator. So right before you get hungry, just go drink your blueberry shake, and have it already ready. So that's the kind of things that I would need to ask myself out loud. Am I doing it? Is this purposeful work? Is this a purposeful habit? Is this worth doing? Am I going down the wrong road? Is this going to be a barricade at the end? And what can I do to not make that not be a barricade in my business?
Yeah.
Really what I want to do now that the market's so fragmented. I'm getting really, honestly, guys, I'm getting so tired of YouTube and the politics online. I'm getting where I don't even care to teach the stuff anymore. I'm to the point now where I just want to be a real consultant on target marketing and marketing for businesses. And I'm revamping my whole self. And if somebody wants to be on social, that's great. But I'm getting to the point where I really don't care. I think we're going to get back to shaking hands and pressing the flesh and meeting people face to face, because we've gotten into this artificial intelligence. We've gotten into this machine learning, and I think people want to meet. And I think that we're going to come around that corner. So I may be way out of line thinking that, but I think that's where it's all going to end up going against. People want to be with people, and they want to know that. So I'm going down a whole dirt road right now. My mind's spinning on, do I even be a part of this mess anymore? I don't know.
I think
I don't
last
know.
night,
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I think last night I was looking at the MLS because I'm doing some work. And I think somebody actually put one of the, what is that called? The VR or or what's that? The Metroverse property on the MLS.
The meta, yeah,
Meta, it was like
the
for
metaverse.
$365,000 and had a
Well,
monthly HOA
well-
fee of $85 a month.
Well, look at this. So I don't want to get off subject, but
Yeah,
I want you got to be careful of Meta, because here's what's happening. I saw an ad the other day on TV for Facebook about a mother and daughter don't live together,
Uh-huh.
fish. So they're virtually fishing right together.
Yeah, I
And
saw
I'm
that.
saying they're trying to replace that relationship with something that's not the real physical, right? Just because you live a long distance. Now I have no problem but you don't make that the full habit. And what these social networks are trying to do is make that your full habit,
Yeah.
not just intermittently, but to be in that metaverse the whole time, because they want you to be whoever you want to be. I just don't see that working. And so I'm having to change my habits about what do I truly believe in teaching something that I'm starting to disagree with 100%. I have to evaluate that out loud. So that's where I'm at with all this. It is what it
How do you
is.
really feel, Hurley?
I was surprised because it
Yeah,
wasn't
how do
real
I
property.
really feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
hey,
surprised.
Kenneth, how does,
It wa-
how do you think Hurdy really feels?
Yeah. How do you think I feel about that?
Well, Hurdy, thanks for sharing that with us, because I know you made a huge investment, but I think people want to talk to people. And at some point in time, AI will not get you there. Okay, I mean, we want people, and we want people if they're flawed. We're all flawed. I mean, I had coffee with Jeff Baker, and I canceled something to do that because it was very important. We get real, and so we don't want to do that virtually, and we could. So,
Yep.
I applaud you, and I know it's not easy because I've walked away from projects before because I didn't support it. I didn't support the values. So, right on, buddy.
Well, see, I
Sure.
see an online meeting like this being convenient and good because we're
Yes.
seeing each other. But like I said, it's when we're changing our habits, in this case, this is a large change. So I have to do slow incremental habit changes to figure out what, and that's where I'm at right now. What habit do I want to substitute with teaching on YouTube? What habit do I want to teach? How do I want to switch consulting? How do I do that role? So I'm going through all that right now. And it's okay.
Hurdy,
I'm kind of enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm honestly enjoying the process
Right.
because it's nice to rethink. Okay, I've been in a pretty cookie cutter mold for the last 10 years of my life, just keeping up with changes online. So the new habit of going back and looking at some more traditional things and going back to some of the big, like you would like this, Denny, like this, the Red Book of Sales, and reading how we used to talk to each other and how, it's really kind of invigorating if you want to know the truth. So.
Yep. Kenneth, what were you going to say? You remember?
Oh, no, I was just listening.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
No, Hurdy,
no, Hurdy,
no.
good stuff. It's very, very good, and I think that's and he speaks to it in here in a sense. I don't think I'm talking out of turn here, but you're looking at something that is part of your life, and you're looking at, do you need to make those changes? And so I'd love to talk some more about that offline. But we want to have behaviors that benefit ourselves and those around us, and that we want to have that propel us forward in a positive manner. This chapter here, I mean, he's really getting into the some of how those habits come about, okay, and what's driving some of the habits, using terms like dopamine in relationship to a habit. We know we've got habits we have cravings for food to eat. We have cravings to get around people. I know that after being online with you guys on Tuesday afternoons, to re-engage, what I need to engage in the rest of the day, I'm going to have to think into it in a lot of cases. I mean, if I need to go and start working on a loan file, when I look at emails and somebody needs a help about, how to qualify a buyer, what guidelines, that's a different mindset than what I'm in right now. And I need to go out here and walk around the parking lot about 4 or 5 times, start sweating a little bit to kind of have a reset. But to wrap this up, chapter summary says that the second law of behavior is make it attractive. So we get into the bundling. He's called it stacking. Now he's talking about bundling. The more attractive an opportunity is, more likely it is to become habit forming. I don't make my sales calls, call people in my database, say hi. I don't do that real easily. It's not something I'm looking forward to doing this afternoon. And that's, that's on my plan at 3:30 to make an hour worth of calls. And what I'm reading here is that maybe I put a reward on the back of it, that if I make 10 calls or 15 calls, then maybe there's a reward at the end of it. Yeah, there you go. Go get some ice cream. Go over to HEB, give me some white cake and ice cream. And so creating a dopamine-driven feedback loop. Okay, so when dopamine rises, so does my motivation to act. I said my there instead of our. It is the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action. The greater the anticipation, the greater the dopamine spike. Temptation bundling is one way to make your habits more attractive. The strategy is to pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do.
Danny, do you recall one time in one of your classes, you played Simon Sinek? Is that his name, Simon Sinek? And he talked about dopamine. Yep. He has a whole thing on YouTube about dopamine, if you recall.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah.
I do.
He talks about if you let your child be on social media, the likes and stuff is the equivalent of them taking a shot of alcohol for the dopamine being released. And basically, you just hand them a bottle of liquor if you allow them to be on social media. It was pretty interesting when you played it for us.
So, Herdy,
I forgot.
I'm getting a question
about that, Mike.
Oh, yeah, Gary.
You've been into the recovery thing and you seem to be well versed on that. Can you give us some examples of what would be a viable dopamine hit reward for you personally or somebody else you would advise them? How do you get that dopamine reward?
Well, yeah. So I can give you tons of examples. I'll just give you a recent one. One of my friends gave up his business and sold it and started. He's a prepper. He started a YouTube channel, needed my help, and within less than 60 days, he has over 3,260 subscribers. He has 750 watch hours a month, and I've taught him how to live stream using a third-party streaming portal where he can go back on and be an influencer to the preppers online. And so the reward was taking a guy that absolutely knew nothing about YouTube, nothing about video, nothing about, and was able to teach him how to put that all together and be very successful. So the reward is I'm watching somebody have a very, very successful time using what I taught him to do. So yeah, so that was cool.
A successful student.
Successful student.
Versions of reality that increase our desire to take action. Temptation bundling is one way to create a heightened version of any habit by connecting it with something you already want. Engineering a truly irresistible habit is a hard task, but this simple strategy can be employed to make nearly any habit more attractive than it would be otherwise. One habit I'm trying to get into is the habit of making my sales calls every day. And so anybody wants to engage with me in some further discussions around that, just reach out to me. So there we are for today.